Battle Cats is a beautiful game. I truly do believe that despite its flaws, it is one of the best mobile games that you can download. So today we're going to do sort of a tribute. We're going to be taking a deeper dive into the gameplay, the features, and the beauty of Battle Cats. If you are someone who is new to Battle Cats, or if you just heard about the game and want to know the basics, then this video is for you. Even if you are an experienced player, stick around. Maybe you'll learn something that you didn't know before, or maybe there's something I missed that you would like to point out. This video is just going to go in detail over all the major parts of Battle Cats that make it great, as well as adding my opinion here and there. With all that said and done, leave your comments on your own opinion in Battle Cats, subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and let's get right into it. Battle Cats is a free-to-play tower defense video game developed and published by PONOS for iOS and Android, originally released in Japan under the name Nyanko Great War. Now there are many tower defense games. It is a broad genre of video games, with games ranging from Clash of Clans to Bloons TD6 to even Plants vs Zombies. There are many reasons why people get hooked on Battle Cats. The visually appealing graphics, like the anime-esque graphics, the cool looking cats, the gambling, and most importantly, the interesting gameplay I have never seen replicated quite so well. Let's start at the very beginning, with the basic mechanics. Now there's a wide variety of features in this game, so I'm not going to get into all of them, but I will cover the important ones. Starting on the very first level, you have to spend a number called energy to play. Basically, different levels cost different amount of energy, and when you run out of it, you can't play until it recharges, which takes some time, or you could watch an ad to help recover some energy, but you can't do that twice in a row. Use a leadership, which is a power-up that restores your energy to full, or spend cat food to recover your energy. Don't worry about what a leadership, what's cat food, we'll explain that later. Anyways, you hop into your first change. Before placing a cat, you have to wait for this currency called cents. This is the money system of Battle Cats. Like Elixir and Clash of Clans, it ain't free. You generate money, and you can also upgrade your wallet, which gives you a small boost to your worker cat efficiency, meaning that he'll make money faster, and most importantly, the amount that he is able to save. So instead of it saving to 6,000, now it's 7,500. Just an example. After beating the stage, you'll get a treasure. Yeah, surely that won't create the biggest wall for beginners and make them uninstall out of frustration. No, I can't do that. No. We're not talking about this today. Watch this video if you're interested in why treasures are the biggest flaw of Battle Cats, but that's not for now. That's another video. Now, like other games, Battle Cats is using XP to upgrade cats, which get progressively more expensive as the levels become higher, and then once you reach a certain level, it'll like go back down again, and then it'll increase. That's not too important. Just know that XP is the way to upgrade cats. Now, if you run out of XP, you can purchase more using cat food, which we'll explain after. There's another currency called NP, which is used to buy talents. We'll explain that later too, but I know there's a lot of stuff for later, but still, just know that is another currency in Battle Cats. Cat food is a vital part of the game. It is similar to resources like gems in Clash of Clans or monkey money in Bloons TD6. It's like a better currency, you know? Cat food is a little more unique though you can buy XP items, you can buy draw in the rare cat capsules. That's really important. That will be explained later as well. Okay, let's go through a little bit of speed run. Upgrades. Each upgrade gives you a different power-up, such as increasing the amount of money you get from defeating enemies. There's a lot of them, so we're not going to talk about all of them, but here are some examples. Worker cat efficiency increases the rate of income, which is the money that generates in the top right corner. Cat cannon range increases the range of the cat cannon, that other little thing that fires and that does damage and knockbacks enemies. Cat energy increases the amount of energy you have, meaning you can play more levels. Moving on, talking about items. You can buy them in the shop for a variety of prices. The better ones are genuinely more expensive. However, you can buy them for half off during an event, but not as important. However, you can buy them for half off during an event. I'll explain all of them. Speed up. Costs 50 food for 9 items. Speed up can be activated and deactivated anytime and makes everything in a battle twice as fast, including time score, depletion, movement speed, recharge rates, spawn frequencies, and attacks. Treasure radar. 90 cat food for 2 items. Basically guaranteed any rewards when you only have a chance of getting them. For example, treasures, that's a whole video. Don't worry about that. Next, CPU. 180 cat food for 20 items. You get a CPU to play the game for you. He's not like the chess bot. He's not that good. He's actually kind of awful, but useful in some situations, and he does deploy immediately, so his faster reaction time than us older humans. Rich Cat, 150 cat food for 7 items. The Rich Cat can completely upgrade your Worker Cat, which is the character at the bottom left corner of the screen. This saves you a lot of money and makes your Worker Cat more efficient and gives it a deeper wallet. Cat Jobs, 300 cat foods for 5 items, increases the amount of XP you get on some stages, but if the XP is a stage reward, it doesn't count. It has to be the completion XP. So when you complete a stage, you'll see this thing gain this much out of XP. It increases that. Sniper the Cat, 90 cat food for 3 items. Sniper the Cat fires a single attack projectile that on a successful hit, barriers and shields can block entirely, forces the struck enemy to be knocked back and have their attack animation reset. Does very little damage, but is useful in some stages, especially boss stages. Skip ahead a little bit. The first part of the game is called story mode. Spoiler, there's not really much of a story to it. This game is not for the lore. The lore is very how should I put it, not very deep. The first set of stages is 48 stages in all, which are themed after cities and countries around the world, for example New York or Japan. And these are split up into 3 chapters. So 144 stages in all, split up into 3 chapters, 48 stages per chapter. This set is called Empire of Cats. After Empire Cats, you'll enter another set of 48 stages themed after futuristic cities and countries around the world. But now it's futuristic, and there's also some random futuristic places that don't exist in real life. Same as before, 48 chapters, 48 stages in one chapter, multiplied by 3, meaning 144 stages in all, and then again divided into 3 chapters. These sets of stages are called Into the Future. Now after Into the Future, you reach the final set of 48 stages, themed after real and imaginary planets in the galaxy, and other space-like, I guess, objects. And yeah, same thing, 144 stages split into evenly into 3 chapters. This set of stages is called Cats of the Cosmos. And after this, is the game over? Are you really done? Is Battle Cats already over? Not even close, but we'll get into that later. Now there's a very, very important part of Battle Cats that I've only briefly mentioned, or maybe haven't mentioned at all, depending if I edited it out, but I consider it to be one of the key features, and that is, of course, buying XP. No, of course not. It's the cat capsule. Now I know what you might be thinking, a gambling machine in a children's game? This cannot be good, and your assumption is not without reason. Many other games struggle in balancing these RNG can of worms. But this is actually one of the most interesting parts of Battle Cats, as well as one of the most game-defining ones, and one of the things you typically look forward to when you're playing Battle Cats. First, let me explain how cat capsules work. There are 2 basic types of cat capsules. There are others, but there's only 2 that we're going to focus on. Normal capsule and rare capsule. Normal cat capsule lets you unlock things like talent orbs, which essentially upgrades your stats further, so like after you finish upgrading to the max, you can boost it further, and then after that, it'll let you trade 5 for a rare cat ticket. Unlocks something very important, common cats. Now, first off, you have to get the common cats by completing stages, right? Like in the first chapter, you'll unlock all the common cats besides Super Feline, but we're not going to talk about them. So let me just explain all the cats, name them all. So cat, and then tank cat, axe cat, ghost cat, cow cat, bird cat, fish cat, and lizard cat. Now, as said again, there's one more basic cat, Super Feline, which you beat from beating Cats of the Cosmos Chapter 3, which will turn the normal cat capsules into cat capsules plus, which now makes every basic cat interchangeable for 2 NP instead of a normal 1, and also allows you to unlock Super Feline. Super Feline is actually not that important, so we're just gonna skip over that. Now, going back to the cat capsule, basically once you unlock a unit, you can, once you unlock a basic cat rather, you can unlock it in a rare cat capsule. You have a chance to unlock them. And what this does is basically, if you get it, you can sell it for XP or NP. NP is later on in the game, but XP. And if you use it, it will basically just add a level to that cat, which is very, very useful. Trust me. Now, there are certain events where you can use your cat capsule for a chance to earn other rewards, such as XP or little cats, where I like these mini, tiny version of the basic cats with sometimes different abilities, but those are not too important. I mean, some of the little cats are okay, but still, I think in general the basic cats are better. Now, there is another rarity of cats called Special. Not going to explain this one, just know it's a rarity you can't get from cat capsules. Next up, rare cat capsules. These require rare cat tickets, which can be earned through many different ways. As said before, you can exchange those extra talent orbs, like bonus ones after you use them all. You can purchase rolls with cat food, Even if you don't have a rare cat ticket, you can get them from beating stages. Lots of ways. We're not going to explain that. That's not that important. Sometimes there is a discount on the rolls. So this changes one roll from costing 90 cat food to 30 and 11 rolls from 1,500 to 750. And I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure this resets after every update or the first time you roll. There are 4 rarities you can get in Battle Cats. Rare, super rare, uber super rare, and question mark, question mark, question mark. That's for later. Let's talk about the rarities a little more in detail. Okay, this is important. A rarity does not coincide with how good the unit is. Like, I know in Monster Legends, oh no, your thing's not mythic, haha, it's garbage. But Battle Cats, little different. Rarity does not coincide with how good the unit is. Now, before I go all the rarities, I just want you to know that not all rare, super rare, and uber super rare can be gotten from cat capsules. There are many other ways to get cats, such as beating, stages, or limited events. Now, let's go into the cats that you can unlock in the rare cat capsule. When you roll, there will be a banner called an uber rare set, but this does not affect the rares and super rares you draw, except the exception of limited collab units, which are like units that come on once in a while. Usually they're not that good, but we're gonna focus on the rares and super rares. Let's talk about rarities. Let's talk about the lowest rarity rares. Now this is, as I said before, the lowest rarity you can get the cat capsule. These guys are pretty basic. They're definitely not bad. Mermaid cat is an example of a rare cat. That cat is very good later on once you evolve them. Next up, super rares. Now these are mostly the most consistently good. Like, they have the most consistently good units all in all. They have some of the best units in the game, which you might not expect. Nerd cat, dancer cat, and weightlifter are all really good units, and nerd and dancer being some of the best in the game, but only when they're evolved. Evolutions, I know I'm mentioning that a lot, I'll explain those later. Uber super rare. Now these are the big boys. These guys usually have the best character design, coolest attack animations, and crazy traits. This is what you roll for usually, because that's what the roll banner is for. It's just insane. These guys are like, when I remember rolling my first Uber Super Rare, I was so like happy because it looks so cool. Now, these guys come in sets, which are themed. You can only collect Ubers from the current set, so you cannot collect Dragon Emperors from Iron Legion, etc, etc. And sometimes there's an event that guarantees an Uber for 11 time drop, which is really the only time you should roll 11. But moving on, these Ubers come in sets, right? So, for example, let's take the Nature Guardian Elemental Pixies. These guys have Ubers like Raviola, Blazabon. Basically, these guys are like budget Pokemon, but basically you can only get them in this set. You cannot get them from another set like the Dynamites, which have like Ubers like Kazaijizo and Marauder. Now, these Uber sets add a little bit of strategy of what to draw. Sometimes you need a certain type of Uber, so you have to wait until the set comes on and then roll. I like the idea about having the set, as now you have Ubers that with some sort of theme instead of them just being random. They all have like similar traits. Iron Legion is like mechanical beast. Nekalugas are like monsters, crazy like, I don't know, science fiction monsters. Dark Heroes is kind of like you know, those anti-heroes like even to Catman, which is pretty funny. Anyways, let's talk about collabs and special events. During certain parts of the year, you'll get a banner that features either characters from another game or limited gacha, which is sort of like themed, Halloween cats. These collab units are usually pretty unique, like Kunio-kun or Ken from Street Fighter. The special event units are usually just clones of normal units, to be honest, but with slightly different traits. Now generally, note that this isn't all the time, but they are genuinely worse. In my opinion, if you have no idea what to roll, try not to roll the special events. They are usually pretty bad. Collabs are a little bit better, but still most of them aren't that good. Some of them are like decent, but in general, they aren't the ones you want to spend your hard-earned cat food for. And sometimes there are limited super rares as well, such as super rares you cannot get normally. For example, Sniper the Cat and Cat Base are limited super rare cats. There's not that many of these, just know that you can't get them normally. There'll be an event that comes on where you can collect them. Now remember the question mark was the 0.3% chance? That is a legend rare. Now, each set has a cat rarer than an Uber called a legend rare. These cats are extremely hard to get due to their low chance. And generally, these guys are really good. There's one legend rare for every set in Battle Cats. For example, the legend rare I was lucky enough to get was Gaia, which is part of the Almighty set. These guys are just like, they usually have super cool generally really good or some insane trait. And yeah, they're just you know, they're like the cream of the crop. They're like the best of the best usually. Keep in mind that just because it's a legend rare, once again, it doesn't coincide with how good it is. Actually, most of the sets, legend rare isn't the best, but still, they're really cool and they're generally very good. Now, something I should mention, there is a thing called track rolling, which is basically where you can see what you're gonna roll for a draw. It's like knowing exactly what you're gonna get before a roll. This is for losers, okay? The best way of explaining is that like instead of like having the ups and downs normally drawing, it's just a flat line. I mean, I guess you know what you're grinding for, and I guess you know if the draw is worthwhile, but I consider it cheating, and I think it does take away an extremely fun part of the game. So like, yeah, I wouldn't recommend you do it, but then again, it's a single player choice game. Do what you like. Yeah, not my choice. Overall, the cat capsules, especially the rare ones, are some of the most fun parts of Battle Cats. It is usually what people tend to look forward to when grinding for cat food, as it presents a set of, I don't know, like fun randomness to the game that makes the game much more enjoyable, especially for me. I've seen people only logging into the game just to roll for the chances of getting a super cool and broken Uber. One of my earlier Battle Cats memories was rolling for my first Uber, Sodom, which was awful, but it was super exciting for me as I never got an Uber before and made the game much more engaging and exciting. After watching this video, if you want to see the Uber rare banners ranked worst to best, which goes more in detail, check out these videos. Anyways, if you were paying attention, you may have noticed that some enemies look a little different. Some of them are different colors, but some of them have the same colors. Or maybe you notice that some cats and enemies both have these weird abilities that they inflict on the opponents. So this brings us into the second key aspect of Battle Cats, traits and abilities. Now I could split this into two separate parts, but they're kind of interconnected, so I will just keep them together. Now, most games have some form of traits and abilities. Actually, almost all games. Like, you gotta keep it to make your game versatile. You can't just have one trait and then like just a couple of abilities. Most games have a variety of these, but Battle Cats makes it a little more interesting. So let's look at an example from another game, Plants vs Zombies. In the first game, mushroom plants. This is a trait, by the way. In the first game, mushroom plants cannot be spawned in the daytime without falling asleep and requires another plants to wake them up, coffee bean. So like that's a trait, mushroom plants, because they fall asleep in the day. So that's like a kind of trait. They all share similar aspects. They're all similar, and so usually they're similar like themes, like mushrooms all look like mushrooms, obviously. And an example of ability from Plants vs Zombies is Snowpea, who has the ability to slow down zombies, and like Torchwood, who makes pea shooters turn into fireballs. But then like if you put a Snowpea in Torchwood, it turns. Don't ask me, I know, I've played a lot of video games. Anyways, but I've never seen a game go so far into traits and abilities as Battle Cats. The thing about abilities in Battle Cats is that they go both ways. Now this may sound kind of weird. It kind of sounds like those, again from Plants vs Zombies, those like zombies with a pea shooter on their head, like that stuff. Let me explain this. Some abilities in Battle Cats are shared by both cats and enemies. I'm gonna say, get this straight, cats, not all cats look like cats, like some of them are just anime characters, but we'll just consider them all cats. So while some cats have like the weaken ability, which I'll explain later, there are other enemies that have that ability too. This, in my opinion, is genius. The same weapons that you use can also be used against you, adding a level of depth to the game. Now, before I go over the abilities, let me explain the two attack types. This applies to both cats and enemies. So single target units with these abilities will only damage the closest target in their attack range. If two targets are at the same distance, a random one will be selected to take the damage. All units in this game have either this or the next attack type, which is area attack. Pretty self-explanatory. Units in this ability will damage all enemies within their range. So going forward, I'll be talking about the other attack types. Now keep in mind that these are stacked onto either single or area attack. So it can be this attack type plus single or area attack. Multi-hit. This ability lets the units perform up to 2 additional hits during their force swing. Force swing is like kind of their attack. Multi-hit doesn't necessarily mean it's better. Actually, in most cases, it makes it worse because it splits up the damage into multiple parts. So it's kind of not that beneficial most of the time. The amount of damage dealt for each hit and when they occur varies among units. Keep in mind that if the unit is knocked back during this time, their animation will be interrupted and their attack cycle will start again. So it'll start from their multi-hit. Long distance. Units with the ability has a set area that damages enemies when they're attacking. This, however, comes with a blind spot, which is an area between them and the attack where the attack will miss completely. So think about it like there's it'll attack this part, and then in between the unit and that attack, there's like a little, not little, but there's a space where they won't get hit. So this, and long distance, usually it means they have a long range. It doesn't mean they have a long range, so to speak. I mean, I can't really think of any units at the top of my head that have long distance, that have short distance, but basically there's a blind split. Omni Strike. This is the most niche attack type in the game, especially for enemies. I don't think there's a single, actually there might be, I don't know. Omni Strike allows units to attack both in front and behind them. This is basically useless in most cases, as enemies cannot pass through your attacks while attacking them. When a cat sees an enemy, they'll just attack each other until one of them dies, right? This is like kind of not really glitch, but like if you knock them back and then somehow the enemy passes through, because the enemies don't recognize them when they get knocked back. Same for cats. When an enemy knocks back, the cat will not recognize them and keep moving forward as if they don't exist until their knockback animation finishes. Okay, I kind of forgot to mention what knockback is. Basically, in Battle Cats, a knockback is kind of like part of their HP. So once a unit takes enough damage, we knock back. So that is just like the animation you've seen in probably my gameplay. It applies to enemies and cats. Different enemies and different cats have different amounts of knockbacks. It's unique for each unit. Obviously, some cats can have the same amount of knockbacks as others. Same with enemies. Basically, what a knockback is like an indication that this cat or enemy has reached a certain amount of HP where they get knocked back. Just because a unit is knocked back doesn't mean that they have that many knockbacks left. Each enemy and cat has a set amount of knockbacks. Just because they're knocked back doesn't mean that they have that many amount of knockbacks. For example, if a cat kills an enemy in one shot, it'll only be knocked back once and then die. So even though if that enemy has 6 knockbacks, it'll only be knocked back once and died because it got killed in one shot. I hope that made sense. I know that sounds a little confusing, but it's the best way to describe it. It'll make a lot more sense when you play the game. When an enemy knocks back, the cat will not recognize them and keep moving forward as if they don't exist until their knockback animation finishes. Omni Strike is kind of useful against zombies. Let me explain why. Because zombies can burrow down beneath your cats and appear on the other side of your cat, meaning that Omni Strike can help you attack behind and in front. And also zombies die, they turn into bones. If your cat walks over their bones and it respawns behind their cat. Now, one thing I should mention, that a cat, actually units in general, cats and enemies, will only attack when the unit is in front of them, not behind them. It will not recognize them when they're behind them, but it will still deal damage if they're behind them, if they have Omni Strike. I hope that made sense. You know what I mean. Please tell me that makes sense. If not, leave any comments that don't make sense. I'll try to explain if I respond. Hopefully I do. I read my comments. A good way to think about Omni Strike is thinking of it as collateral damage. So like, it'll attack behind, but that's not the purpose. It'll try to attack in front, and if it hits behind, bonus to you. But it will not try to attack behind. That wasn't a very good explanation, but still. Now let me go over what I consider to be the most important abilities. There are many abilities, and I don't want to go all over them, so I'll just do the ones that are very, very essential in my opinion. And keep in mind this applies to both cats and enemies, unless said otherwise. So weaken. Units with the ability can decrease the damage of the opponent's attack. Freeze. Units with the abilities can freeze enemies in place, stopping both movement and attack animations. Slow. Units with the abilities can slow opponents down. Movement speed, pretty self-explanatory, not their attack. Knockback. Units with the abilities can push enemies back, interrupting their attack animation. Curse. Units with the abilities can completely nullify the vast majority of the target's special abilities, if any, until the curse ends. This includes abilities like weaken, freeze, slow, attacks only strong against, resistance, insanely tough, massive damage, insane damage, knockback, dodge, attack, warp, curse, ironically, and toxic. Warp. An ability exclusive to enemies. Depending on the success chance and attack type of the enemy, one or a group of cats that get hit will disappear from the battlefield and from a specific amount of time, only if they are not knocked back or destroyed. So if the attack kills them, it won't whip them back, obviously, and will reappear at a specific distance ahead or behind their original position. Dodge. An ability exclusive to cats. Cats with this ability have a chance to take no damage from an enemy and become immune to attacks for a set amount of time. Survive. Units with the ability will have a set chance to survive a lethal strike. Sometimes it will be guaranteed. When this activates, this unit is knocked back with 1 HP left. Critical attack. Critical hit, sorry. Units with abilities can do a critical hit, which is indicated by producing a burst of yellow stars with a unique sound effect. Critical hits inflict 2 times the amount of damage and ignore the metal ability that reduces all damage taken to 1. We'll explain that later. Wave attack. Units with this ability can create wave attacks, but only when their attacker connects. So if you throw an attack, it misses, the wave will not spawn. Surge attack, just like wave attacks, but they create a surge. Same thing about the not missing. So these are just some cat specific abilities, so this only happens to cats. Strong. Cats with these abilities will inflict 1.5 times damage and only take 0.5 times damage from specific enemy traits. Resistance / tough. Cats with this ability will only take 1/4 damage against specific enemy traits. Massive damage. Cats with this ability will inflict 3 times damage to specific enemy traits. Zombie killer. Zombie won't revive if a zombie killer deals the final blow. Extra money. This ability doubles the amount of money granted from enemies when they are defeated. Okay, that was the basics. I really like abilities in Battle Cats. And while there's like some sort of this in every tower defense, Battle Cats introduces so many interesting interactions. I feel like I've never seen this replicated before. Again, that the fact that the abilities go both ways makes it feel like there's like some even ground. Like it's kind of like not you're overpowered. Oh, the enemy gets to slow you down, you get to weaken, but they also get to weaken. And like the amazing amount of interactions just from, I just mentioned a couple of abilities, there's a lot more. And just like the interactions, timing, like just strategies based on this, it's just amazing, in my opinion. But this gets even deeper. Let's talk about traits. This very well may be the most important part of Battle Cats. Traits mostly apply to enemies, so that's what we're going to be focusing on today. There are 11 traits that I'm aware of at the time of making this video in the English version of Battle Cats. So, red enemies, these enemies have a red appearance. Floating enemies, these enemies float or fly. Black enemies, these enemies are black in color, usually with red eyes. Metal enemies, now these guys are special. They're gray and look metallic, usually with green eyes. These enemies are special because all damage to them is converted to 1 damage. So if a metal enemy has 100 HP, it'll take 100 hits to kill them. However, they are vulnerable to critical hit attacks, which bypass this trait. So it'll do the actual amount of damage instead of just 1. Angel enemies, these enemies are angelic in appearance with a halo on top of their head. Alien enemies, these aliens are aqua in color and are introduced into the future. Zombie enemies, special once again, these guys are purple in color. Like metal, these guys have a special trait. If you kill them with normal units, they will become a skull and revive after a period of time specific to that enemy. They will also revive at least once, but most zombie enemies will revive more than that. However, they will die permanently if a cat with zombie killer ability listed before deals the final blow. Note that it is only the final blow. It does not matter what happens before that. So if a normal attack, like another cat does like 999 damage and the enemy is 1000 damage and the cat with zombie killer kills it, it's fine, it will die. And this will be indicated by this like weird like this effect. I don't really know how to explain it right now. Also, this trait can burrow beneath your cats and then pop up behind them. Not all burrow distances are the same, and I'm not sure if all zombies burrow, and this burrow can sometimes be cancelled out. This is getting too complicated, just know that zombies are pretty exceptional. Zombie enemies are introduced in zombie outbreaks. Aku enemies, these enemies are dark blue in color and are introduced in the Aku outbreaks. Relic enemies, these guys have an Asian appearance, usually with some sort of green. These guys are introduced in the final chapter of Stories of Legends, which I will kind of explain later. Colossal enemies, these are larger and stronger versions of existing enemies. Behemoth enemies, just like colossal enemies, these guys are stronger versions of existing enemies. Traitless, and this is just enemies without a trait. Traits, except for traitless obviously, can stack. For example, I Am Face is both alien and floating. And it's also too common to see similar enemies with different traits. There's a doge for every single trait, from floating to zombie, from red to alien. Now, even though certain traits are not supposed to be unlocked to certain parts of the game, like aliens, they can be spotted in legend stages, which I'll explain later. Now, I said earlier that traits and abilities are heavily related. But why is that? Let me explain. Most cats have a niche. A niche is basically their role in playing a part of meta. In other words, why would you use me? Or rather, why would you pick me over other cats, or other versions of me? Let me give you an example. Let's look at iCat. In his true form, he has these stats, blah, 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 blah. But look at this. 100% chance to freeze enemies, red enemies, for 2 seconds. This is called an ability. Certain units will have certain abilities designed to certain traits. Gangland the Unleash has strong, remember the ability, 1.5 times damage, 0.5 damage taken against alien and zombies. Kazaijizo has massive damage to blacks and angels, and Cyberpunk has slow for every single trait except for metal. Do you see how this starts to connect? I really like this about battle cats. They found a way of making most cats relevant just through making them like strong against this trait or strong against this trait. Now there's like so many like almost limitless combinations of you can do. Oh, you can do this cat, he does massive damage to aliens and zombies. Maybe another cat, he has strong versus black enemies, blah 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 blah. So many combinations, so many variations. It really is a creative way of making sort of like this Pokemon-esque type of like interactions. Okay, some traits are more power creep than others, like floating is very power creep. If you know what power creep means, it basically means it's like gotten more and more like bad over time because there are more cats designed to counter it. Now, even past the mixing and matching of traits and abilities, PONOS, the creators of battle cats, can just... What if this unit has really low HP but it has extremely long range? What if this cat has no abilities at all but it just has extremely high health? Creativity almost endless. PONOS is a genius for this. Not only did they make abilities go both ways for the most part, they found a way to add so many more options. Again, mixing and matching. Strong, blah blah blah. I explained this anyway. It's just so impressive how PONOS was able to like add something so complicated yet so simple and packed in this mobile game, and it really makes a lot of interactions more interesting. And yeah, it's just a very key part of battle cats. So overall, traits and abilities are probably the most important aspect of battle cats. Credit for PONOS for making such a good system that makes it easier for them to develop new cats so they don't feel redundant. Well, obviously it's not perfect. For example, some units, especially generalists, which are units that can affect most or all traits, including traitless, are strong in the meta right now. I still see this as a genius way to create the most variety, allowing the game to introduce new cats and enemies without making the game feel redundant. Okay, this enemy slows down your cats. This enemy doesn't have any abilities, extremely tanky, and then maybe you can put like a backliner enemy, like enemy with long range and high damage. For cats, oh, let's add strong versus this trait. Maybe we can make it as resistant and massive damage, but only for this trait. Or maybe we can make it so it only attacks this trait, but does massive damage. Or maybe the list goes on and on. I just think this is a very creative way of making interactions in battle cats as versatile and interesting as possible. So credit where credit is due. Now, some of my more, let's say, observant viewers may have looked at the bottom of the screen and noticed, hey, some cats look more golden than others, some cats have more than others. Why is that? At the start of the video, all the cats were like, have white backgrounds and look very basic, but now they look more royal, more upgraded, more, I don't know, aesthetic. Now, this leads us into the third key aspect of battle cats, which is evolutions. Battle Cats evolutions. In the English version of Battle Cats, there are currently 3 forms of cats: basic, evolved, and true. There is one more 4th form, but I think that's only in the Japanese version, so we're not going to talk about it. Now, something should be mentioned here: when you unlock either the evolved or true form, it does not mean that it's stuck that way. You can flip in between forms, however, the stats stay the same. To make it simpler, let's say you upgraded a unit to level 15, which will make the cat unlock its evolved form. You can choose between either the basic form or the evolved form, but the stats will still be that of a level 15 cat. Anyways, let's go over the forms and their differences. Basic forms. This is the first form. This form ranges from level 1 to 9. These cats will have a white background in their profile during the game. Not much to say here. Evolved form. This is their second form. This form ranges from level 10 to 30. These cats will have a whitish gold background in their profile during a game. Aesthetically, this form will usually change the look of the units, typically adding more color and making their animation usually a little more cool, especially for the rarer units like Uber Super Rares and Legend Rares. Sometimes this form will add a drastic change to the look of the character. For example, the entire set of Negalugas go off this gimmick. Look at this guy! Now practically, usually this buffs their stats. For example, Monaco goes from having 10,200 health at level 30 to 17,000 health at level 30. Or sometimes they'll add another ability or increase the properties of an already existing ability. For example, Kotatsu Cat evolves into Sadako Cat, gaining resistance to floating enemies while retaining their chance to weaken. In other cases, it will completely change the unit. For example, Kazaijizo turns into a spammable unit to a huge tower. This is actually a nerf. Going back to the Nekalugas, these cats are basically all useless until they reach level 10, which then they will gain actual properties. As said before, this usually comes with an insane aesthetic change. For example, Balaluga turns into Balalon Pasalon and gains the ability to freeze all enemies in his range for 2.3 seconds. There are also cases where it does change the unit, but really just changes the use cases. Let me explain. This could be a form in the changing of the unit's abilities or changing the traits that the unit is effective against. For example, White Knight Cyclops evolves into Dark Knight Cyclops. This changes his base ability, chance to freeze Alien and Aku, to strong against Alien and Aku. Another example, Catman has massive area damage against floating aliens. When he evolves into Dark Catman, he gets massive area damage against angels and aliens, so it's a switch up of traits. Now, there are some more exceptions, but I'm not going to go through those. Let's move on to the next one. True form. This is the meat and potatoes, alright? True forms can be unlocked starting at level 30. Now, there are a lot of exceptions, so we're not going to go through all of them, but here's a couple examples of some exceptions. Normal cats besides Super Feline can only reach a max of level 20 by upgrading. You have to use cats from cat capsules to reach an extra 10 levels, and then they will evolve into the true form. This is why I said it was important that you get cats from cats capsules earlier. The crazed cats require you to beat their respective stages, called Maniac stages. Urian Wolf, Red Riding Mina, Miki Modo Musashi. You get the true form after clearing Stories and Legends stages. And you have to use a certain amount of cat fruit. I'll explain that after, and 1 million XP. Now let's just go into the normals, the non-exceptions. Now, unlike the evolved form, unlocking true form takes more than just XP. This is where cat fruit comes in. There are two forms of cat fruit. Cat fruit seeds and then just cat fruit. 5 cat fruit seeds can be fused to create a cat fruit, which also gives you a small chance to create an epic cat fruit. There are 7 different cat fruit types. Green, purple, red, blue, yellow, epic, aku, elder, and gold. You can get cat fruit from many different methods, including stages and capsules. Now, different cats need different types and amounts of cat fruits to evolve, which can sometimes include both seeds and cat fruits, or just seeds or just cat fruits. Now, what does true form do? Many different things. Usually, the base stats of the units, like their health and DPS, are boosted dramatically. Their abilities usually get buffed as well, and sometimes even gain new abilities. For example, Hacker Cat's from going from around 634 DPS to 952 DPS, and gains the ability to slow all non-metal units for 2 seconds, making him one of the best cats in the game. He's a long-range crowd controller. Another example, Face Cat goes from having single target, meaning he can only attack once at a time, to gaining area attack, and goes from a 40% chance to a 100% chance to freeze red enemies for 2 seconds. So he goes from a single target, maybe I can freeze red enemies, so I will freeze red enemies, and gains area attack, so now can attack more than one. There are also cases where it does change the unit, but really just changes the use cases. This is kind of similar to evolve form. This can be done by either changing the form of the unit's ability, so changing, like, for example, from strong versus this trait, or maybe it weakens them instead, or changing the traits the unit is effective against. So let's use Dark Catman again. He goes from having massive damage from angels and aliens to massive damage to aliens and relics, while also getting immunity to curse. So that is very important. He's a pretty versatile unit. So yeah, just if you get him, try to invest in him. He's a pretty good unit. Sometimes, like evolve form, it can completely change the unit. For example, Crazed Bahamut turns into Awakened Bahamut Cat, which completely changes the way he used. I'm gonna go a little more detailed to this one. So look, his HP remains the same. His attack power goes up a lot. It goes from 4,250 DPS to around 30,161 DPS. 30,000. To compensate for this, his attack range goes from 450 to 200, but his movement speed increases from 6 to 60. This changes this unit completely. He goes from kind of like a backliner, like semi-nuker, to a rusher and nuker. Just rushes them down and turns into one of the best units in the game. True form also unlocks a very important feature: talents. Talents are essentially sort of like a buff you give your units, which can either increase their base stats, buff their abilities, or even give them new abilities or target traits. Talents require NP to purchase, which is like another XP, like I explained earlier. You can get NP by exchanging your cats for, instead of XP, NP. This is unlocked after you beat Into the Future Chapter 3, so you cannot access NP before then. NP is used for purchasing talents, which are very, very useful and can alter the way any unit is used. For example, Great Obawa can now unlock buffs to his HP, attack, and the lowering of his cost. He also can unlock the ability Strengthen, Resist, and Resist Wave. Talents are a very important part of Battle Cats, and you can use them to make your cats even better than they are already. And with the opportunity to gain new abilities and maybe even change the way you use some cats. Like, for example, this is just hypothetical. This cat has Strong versus Alien, but with talents you get Alien and Red. Oh, now I can use them against red enemies as well. So now this increases his general value. And or maybe this unit has too little HP. Why don't we give him the survive talent? And now that he survives a lethal strike. Now keep in mind that not all talents are the same for every cat. Each cat has their own custom talents. It's just like a set of abilities and upgrades that you can give it. It is not the same for every single cat. Just keep that in mind. Overall, Battle Cats evolutions play an integral part of adding to the identity of Battle Cats. Instead of just boosting the stats like other games, they went through the effort of adding new abilities and animations, which aesthetically is really cool, making it really rewarding both strategically and aesthetically to upgrade units. Strategically, it adds many questions like what units should I use my hard-earned XP for? What units are worth evolving? What talents should I buy? Sometimes certain stages will require a specific type of cat to beat, so you might have to grind to get a certain unit, upgrades, or even evolve them to make them gain new abilities or just buff their stats. Aesthetically, it really contributes to the theme of Battle Cats. I really love how much effort PONOS put into consistently making the animations better as you progress up the evolution change. It is so cool to see the Nekalugas go from like pathetic little babies to huge beasts straight out of sci-fi. Basic mechanics, traits and abilities, evolutions, these are all what I'd consider to be mechanics of Battle Cats, but the last key aspect is a little different. It's more like a future. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to the third and final key aspect of Battle Cats, which I consider to make it great, that being Legend Stages. Legend Stages. Sometime in the game, you'll unlock Legend Stages. It's this red and black icon, and when you click on it, you might be surprised. You'll see a variety of many different things. First off, let's talk about the main feature of Legend Stages, Stories of Legend. This is basically kind of like the chapters of Battle Cats, but kind of different. Like when you it's like there's gonna be a set amount of chapters, and then like once you beat them, you can like go back and try harder difficulty until you reach 4-star, which is gonna start putting conditions on. And there's like so many chapters, or a lot more. Like I think there's over 50. And after that, there's Uncanny Legends, which is basically story legends, but with new enemies, new traits, and yeah, it's just harder. Stories of Legends and its predecessor, Uncanny Legends, has some of the most versatile stages in Battle Cats. It introduces many new enemies, allows you to unlock new units such as Musashi or Mina. Is a very interesting part of Battle Cats. Actually, in my opinion, I think Uncanny Legends and Stories of Legends have the best stage design. That's out of all the chapters, I think it's better designed than the first 3 chapters, second 3 chapters, and third 2 chapters, like better than Empire Cats, Into the Future, and Cats of the Cosmos. However, it's not that unique. I think it is definitely a very big future of Battle Cats, but I wouldn't consider it a key aspect that makes it great. Let's go at what makes this game great, which is special stages. Special stages are basically events that are on for a set amount of time. Some stages come back regularly, like cat fruit stages. Like you have to go every day, there's a new cat fruit stages. However, some stages are limited, only coming on at certain times of the year, or maybe not coming back at all. Usually these are sort of holidays and collaboration events, or collaboration events, I should say. Now, let's talk about the regular event stages. So these are the non-limited, non-collaboration ones. As I said before, these are stages. Sometimes these are stages that you beat for resources. In this case, let's use cat fruit. Stage you need to beat to get blue cat fruit seed and blue cat fruit are available on Thursdays. Additionally, during the weekend, all cat fruit stages will be available with some bonus ones like epic cat fruit seed and epic cat fruit stages. But the really cool ones are the unit unlock stages. Now, these are important. So, let's talk about crazed cats. As I said before, crazed cats are kind of like a better version of normal cats in general, usually having higher stats, but other than that being very similar. To unlock these useful cats, you have to beat the respective stages. The crazed cat for crazed cat, etc., etc. To unlock their true form, you have to beat their maniac stages, so maniac cat for crazed cat's true form, etc., etc. Another example, you have to beat Dimension of Despair for a chance to unlock Drum Core Cats, an anti-metal. And you have to beat Dimension of Delirium for a chance of unlocking his true form. There's a lot more useful units that can you unlock through these unit unlock stages. For some examples, and I'm only going to say one other form for clarity. Space Marine Cat, Tourist Cat, Jelly Cat, and Bullet Tree Cat are just a few of the units that you can unlock from these types of stages, and all of them are quite useful. This is a very interesting way of unlocking units. In addition to the normal rolling for rare cat capsules or cat capsules, you also have a chance to use your skill to beat a stage and then get a unit. Unlike other games where it's usually watch an ad to get this unit, or pay gems or money, or unlock this unit through a chest, Battle Cats finds a way to make a happy medium between both cat capsules and unit unlock stages. It is good to know that if you want a certain unit, you just have to beat these stages for a chance to unlock them. Now, I say a chance because usually it's not guaranteed to get it after you clear stage. There's a set chance, but you can solve this with Treasure Radar, which is the power-up I mentioned earlier in the video. Now this creates kind of like a not mixed bags, makes it sound like it's positive and negative, which I'm sure there is positive and negatives, but it's like diverse. Some units are up to luck, while others are up to skill. Now, it would be a lie to say that Battle Cats is the only game that does this. There are several other games that definitely do this kind of mixed, both RNG and skill, not skill, but like completion based. I've never seen a game get so like creative with it. There are new enemies you have to face to clear these stages, and like sometimes you have to even beat the cat as a boss to unlock the cat. Let's look at Craze Cat. You have to beat the Craze Cat with a bunch of supporting enemy units to unlock the cat. That is very, very creative. It's like once again that like pea shooter zombie from Plants vs Zombies. And like no other game that I've played has ever really gone like this far into sort of like the depth of designing stages designed for you to get units once you complete these stages. That's a very bad exclamation, but some of these units, they're not useless. They're actually very good and very useful. Actually, some of these units I actually use on a pretty regular basis. For example, some stages where I wave attack cat, like Jelly Cat. So you would grind, you would search up strategies, or maybe you like make your own strategy on how to beat the Jelly Cat stage, acquire Jelly Cat, and then use it. It's just a very consistent way of making the player feel sort of rewarded for like doing these extra stages by getting a unit, which is usually the best kind of reward in my opinion. Maybe cat food's better, but moving on. And yeah, I've never really seen any other game go so far into this. Usually like maybe they'll have something like this, but it'll be much less units that you're able to unlock through these stages, or maybe it'll be a combination of luck and these unlock stages. Like, oh no, you have to roll, you defeat these stages for like a chance, for like a ticket, and then you use that to roll, which to be fair is not a bad design, but it's like Battle Cats is like pretty unique in the way it combines both RNG and skill and completion, you know? And it's kind of part of why Battle Cats is like beautiful, you know? Not everything's up to luck. Anyways, next let's talk about the limited stages, and this is where it gets juicy. During certain special and collaboration events, stages will pop up that are interesting to say the least. Let's talk about the other limited stages, and this is where it gets juicy. There's a lot more categories of limited stages, for example, collaboration events and special events, so like, I'm just gonna call them limited stages to keep it generalized. Gauntlets, Empress Reports, Colossal Stages, all these cool things that allow you to have extra content and earn some extra rewards along the way. For example, Gauntlets, I said before, are maps containing up to 20 no-continue levels that can drop rewards such as battle items, cat fruits, tickets, catamins, materials, and leaderships when completed for the first time. Players can score up to 3 victories in the Gauntlet before it becomes inaccessible, and each takes 30 minutes or 1 catamin A, which is basically kind of like a speed up or cooldown to refill. Not that important. Collaboration stages. Now these are very interesting. I know some other people love collaborations. I love Super Smash Bros. I think it's very cool that they added characters from a lot of different games, so I think collaborations are pretty cool. So you'll face characters from like Mola Mola, which is this Japanese game that I've never heard of before. I mean, some of the games they feature are pretty obscure, and then like games that aren't that obscure, like Street Fighter. And you have the chance to earn like special rewards and even some exclusive units. For example, the Hatsune Miku collab is a collab with Hatsune Miku. During this event, there will be a limited draw for rare cat capsules, but also new limited legend stages. Completing these stages will grant you various rewards, including cat tickets, XP, and the limited unit Miku cat. So it's cool. Even if the unit isn't, sometimes they aren't very good, but it's cool to know that, you know, you get a unit from another game. It's like a collaboration, like a skin in like Fortnite, except it's not a multiplayer game, so I guess it's only how much you value it, not how much other players value it. These limited stages add another important aspect of Battle Cats, extra content. If someone is tired of doing Empire Cats, Into the Future, Cats of the Cosmos, Story of Legend, Uncanny Legends, etc., they can just take a break and kind of do these cool limited stages as like kind of not really kind of side quests, and then get some cool rewards. But unlike side quests in other games, they're not boring, they're not monotonous. They're interesting. They have interesting stage design. They have interesting enemies. Sometimes they have interesting and unique rewards. Sometimes they're limited. Sometimes they require like really intricate strategies to beat. Sometimes they'll introduce a new enemy. Sometimes you might need another cat. It's just a very interesting way of incorporating extra content into Battle Cats. And this just really shows Battle Cat's proficiency for creating bonus content from the start of the game all the way to the end. Can't get past the Station Cast of the Cosmos? Come grind for a unit that could help you. It makes it so that the player is not only stuck doing story mode or stories of legend or uncanny legends, they can switch it up and try to beat these legend stages, and who knows, maybe get something that they can help. This just adds to the variety of content in Battlecast, which is why part of what makes it a beautiful game. There's just so many things you can do. It also adds new content for endgame players who have already completed the majority or maybe even the entire game of Battlecats. They have a reason to come back, maybe earn these limited rewards, as said earlier. And you know how much players love limited rewards. Battlecats is not the only game to feature these special stages, but I've never seen an offline game, I'm quoting offline games because a lot of online games do stuff like this, go so far into this. In other games there would be more like side quests, you know, like it's, as said before, more monotonous and boring. But in Battlecats, they are genuinely a core part of the game. You can unlock new units, grind for resources, discover new enemies, acquire new strategies, all from these legend stages. And it's not like you're forced to play legend stages. You can definitely beat Battlecats chapters without it, with the exception of cat fruit stages. You kind of have to play those. But the game becomes so much more interesting and easier if you take the time to beat some of these stages. And in my opinion, I don't really think you've beaten Battlecats unless you've taken the time to complete most, if not all, the legend stages. Obviously, you probably can't complete all of them because they're adding new ones all the time. But like, for example, Blue Planet is still something I struggle to complete. Even though I've completed Cast of the Cosmos and I'm far into Uncanny Legends, I've completed many merciless stages. I just can't beat Blue Planet. So it's just still replies a challenge for me to come back and, you know, maybe one time I will beat Blue Planet, you know? It gives me a reason to keep grinding and getting on the game even though I'm almost finished the game. And the other thing about Legend stages, unlike other side quests in other games, they're not annoying to do. In fact, I would argue that legend stages are the most interesting part of Battlecats, mainly due to the wide variety of stages you can play. New bosses require new strategies, interesting conditions make you adapt your gameplay, and rewards limited to legend stages keeps you coming back for more and more. This is just some of the ways that legend stages remain relevant in the vast content of Battlecats. I really like what Battlecats has done to legend stages. I think they're extremely interesting, and I think legend stages are where I've spent the majority of my time in Battlecats, including stories of legends and uncanny legends. I also like that they make it so accessible during all parts of the game. You can play an Emperor Cats, you can play an Into the Future, you can play in Cats of the Cosmos. It makes it so that you aren't restricted to playing these chapters, which you know many players will give up and quit. But why? Hey, instead of quitting, let's come to this cool legend stage and maybe grind for this thing that will help. As I said before, maybe you'll get, you know, a cat that will help, or maybe you get like a cool limited reward. It gives sort of variety and more options for the player so that they don't just like get bored, I guess, of doing the same thing over and over again. Because to be honest, Battlecat chapters are sometimes kind of boring, so it's good to have like sort of a refreshing break from it. That's what legend stages are. So overall, legend stages are the final part of what made Battlecats great. It truly lets PONOS add both versatile and interesting content, giving the players reasons to try it out, unlike other games where it's just like, get more chests, try it out, it'll help, it'll give you rewards, but it's not really that interesting. And in my opinion, Battlecats is truly not a complete game without legend stages, and it is a huge part of why I consider Battlecats to be a very entertaining and versatile game. In conclusion, Battlecats is an amazing game, a beautiful game. The combination of cat capsules, traits and abilities, evolutions, and legend stages fuses to create this creative, interesting, versatile, and most importantly, entertaining mobile game. Now there's one more factor I did not mention that I think is a major part of what makes Battlecats great, which is the free-to-play aspect of Battlecats. Spoiler, Battlecats is completely free to play. I myself have not spent a single cent on it, but that requires a whole new video to discuss. So turn on notifications to get alerted when I post that video in the future. Hopefully I don't get sidetracked. As mobile games, especially the offline ones, seem to get more and more boring and mass produced, like Voodoo, they're just not very interesting in general. It is good to know that there's a completely free game in the App Store that is well worth your time, in my opinion. Or, of course, Play Store, or if you're a hardcore Android user, you know, or Google user. I respect. I started out on an Android. Every offline mobile game that I've ever played, Battle Cats is by far the best one. By far the best one. I've never seen a game be so entertaining and versatile, and I've spent many hundreds of hours just grinding this game out, and I've enjoyed most of it. And while Battle Cats is definitely not a perfect game, there's so many flaws, oh my goodness, but overall, the pros just severely outweigh the cons. I'm really just restating myself at this point, but Battlecast is such a well-designed game. Like, credit where credit is due, PONOS did a masterclass with this game, and I feel kind of bad that more people don't know about this game. More people are like, oh, Plants vs. Zombies or Subway Surfers, you know, are the offline mobile games, but they never consider this game, Battlecats. Another thing I would recommend is that if you're playing Battle Cats, and I know this seems kind of unrelated to Battle Cats itself, but if it seems kind of difficult, definitely search up a guide. Guides really help in Battle Cats because like there's many parts of the game where you might be stuck on a legend stage, hard sub-chapter in Cats of the Cosmos. Yeah, just there's so many things. There are a lot of helpful guides out there to help you just improve and get better and just like progress in the game. So yeah, definitely use those. I know that's not too related to this video, but if you are considering committing to Battle Cats, this is like a key aspect. There's many videos out there. Just go ahead, search it up. Yeah, and Battle Cats, of course, personally, my channel wouldn't be here what it is without this game. So if you're looking for a new game to play, or you're just starting out the game, I definitely recommend downloading this game or committing to it if you're already playing it. It is an amazing game and truly a beautiful one. Thank you all for watching. If you watched this far in the video, that means you hopefully watched the majority of the video, which is very good as it lets YouTube's algorithm know that this is a good video and should be shared with other people. Now, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I just finished editing the majority of the video. I'm not completely done yet, and yeah, it's been exhausting. It took a long time from the script writing to the editing to now I gotta do the thumbnail. So if y'all could just subscribe or leave a comment or like if you enjoyed. You don't have to, of course. You watching this video this far is already supporting me, but if you could do that, that'd be very much appreciated. Anyways, I want to give you all an update on my channel. So starting from now, I think the next video is not going to be Battle Cats related. I'm going to start expanding my channel to incorporate other games. So this is very important. If you want any games in specific that you want me to cover, particularly mobile games, but I don't mind doing a PC game if it's cheap or free. Please leave them in the comments. I do read my comments, so yeah, that would just give me a sense of what you viewers want. So yeah, and turn on notifications because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it from my normal viewers feed using this YouTube feature, so it'll only show up to like completely new people. So if you turn on notifications, you'll be alerted for that because it won't pop in your recommended. But just a couple more things. If you want to see the Uber sets and Battle Cats rank worst to best, I have 2 videos up. I talked about Ubers early in the video, and yeah, if you just want to see them ranked, the Uber sets, which are very important, check out this video. That's gonna be about it, so thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.